Pokemon cards have changed. No one cares about Charizard anymore. It's all about Umbreon. A holo card is worthless, and hordes of people bought plane tickets to Amsterdam for this, worth only about $150. If you're returning to the hobby after a hiatus, it can be confusing. Let me break it all down for you, starting with booster packs. So this is a booster pack today. I've got a 1999 pack here for comparison. They look similar, but the cards inside are a lot different. The cards are a lot shinier now, and unlike the original packs, each booster will contain a guaranteed holo and 2 reverse holo cards, and any of these can be swapped out for a higher rarity. Oh, and by the way, the rarity scale is quite a bit different. In an old pack, the hit was a rare, represented by a star, and if you were lucky, you could pull a holo rare. Today, rare is actually on the lower end of the rarity scale. Yeah, there's a whole scale of rarities now. It can be confusing, but all you need to remember is black, silver, gold, and 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. I have a whole in-depth guide on the rarity system, so feel free to watch it later. But the key takeaway is that special illustration rares marked with 2 gold stars are the most valuable on the secondary market. They have detailed artwork and texture on the face. These are the cards that everyone chases after. A common question I get is which booster pack is the best to open, and the answer lies in expansion sets. There are a lot of expansion sets. A new one is released about every 3 months, so over the past 25 years, that's a lot of sets. It'll make more sense if we look at the structure. We have different blocks of the TCG that span more than a year. This is sometimes called an era. For example, we're in the Scarlet and Violet era right now, but this will change soon because most of these eras coincide with the release of the video games. And they also come with a unique game mechanic. You might remember Pokémon EX from the EX era in 2003, and they've actually returned a few times over the years, but we've also had GX, V, and more. The booster pack we just opened says Scarlet and Violet, but it also has the set name, 151 in this case. New sets contain new cards, mostly. Sometimes they reprint cards for the TCG or just to cash in on nostalgia, like Charizard here for example. Each set includes a few chase cards, and these are the sought after ones that stand above the rest, usually going for a couple $100 on the secondary market. The biggest chase card though of the modern era is this, Umbreon VMAX. Each set has a set symbol, so you could quickly identify which set a card was from based on the symbol, but they recently removed these and now use an abbreviated version of the set name, so there's a lot less confusion. There are a lot of resources and apps you can use to see which cards belong to which set. Some websites I like are PokemonCards.com and the official database, Pokemon.com. Regarding apps, I like Dex and Pokelector. Now, I'm not affiliated or sponsored with any of these, they're just what I like to use. And if you're returning to the hobby, you might feel the urge to collect every card from a set. We call this a master set. Just a warning, this is harder to do today than it was in the early 2000s. Sets are bigger and cards are harder to pull. Plus, we have all kinds of variants and promos which are optional and would lead you into something I call a Grandmaster set. Now, I do have a whole video dedicated to master sets, so you can learn more there. If you want to master set one of the original sets, like base set for example, buying singles is best. The booster packs are just too expensive now. But you should also consider 151. This is a modern set that includes only the original 151 Kanto Pokemon. It's kind of like a new updated base set. And by the way, if you do decide to start a master set, collecting all the cards just by opening boosters is just no longer feasible. You'll spend 2 to 3 times more. Open as many boosters as you want, but then buy the cards you're missing and you'll save yourself tons of money, I promise. Next, you're probably going to be collecting promo cards. Now, this isn't something that has actually changed all that much. Remember Black Star promos, like the ones you got from the movie theater? They still do these, although the sets are much bigger. They don't belong to one of the regular expansion sets. They actually have their own set that spans the entire era of the TCG. For example, the Scarlet and Violet Black Star promos started when Scarlet and Violet came out, like the video games, which is when the Scarlet and Violet set came out. And it will end when the Scarlet and Violet era ends, when the new games come out. It's one big set that's drip fed over a year or two. Now, some promos can be hard to find and become quite expensive. This gray hat Pikachu was available to customers who visited the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. Unfortunately, this turned into a pretty large fiasco involving scalpers and corrupt employees and produced headlines across the world. And yes, people actually bought plane tickets to Amsterdam just to get one of these cards. This was a whole thing, and the Pokemon Company issued several statements about it, eventually pulling the card from the museum and offering it through the Pokemon Center, the official store, which we will talk about later, and even some GameStop locations. So this dropped the price as supply increased, but 99% of promos are going to be found in bundles with products that you can find on the store shelves, so you don't really have to worry about that. Collection boxes, ETBs, and blister packs will have promos, but there are dozens and dozens of products now. This video would be way too long if I went through every single TCG product and explained each one in depth. But luckily, I've already done that. So once again, I'll link the video here and also down below the like button. But the tricky thing about promo cards is that they're only available for a short amount of time, and some of them, like the Pikachu with gray felt hat, can be tricky to obtain. In this case, you'll have to visit the secondary market. Now, back in the day, the secondary market was basically bringing your binder onto the school bus and trading cards, but today it's much less wholesome. So the secondary market ranges from $1 listings all the way up to the 6- and 7-figure deals that we see on social media. These high-level deals are typically done privately or at auction, but for normies like us, we go to eBay and TCG Player. We'll get into this more when we talk about buying and selling cards, but first we have to discuss how we got here. So collecting Pokemon cards was a pretty small hobby for a pretty long time. After the initial launch of Pokemon died out, the franchise existed on a small but healthy scale. But then in 2016, Pokemon Go launched, and this caused a lot of people to come back. Pokemon cards flew off the shelves, and the demand reached an all-time high. However, this was nothing compared to COVID, to the pandemic. This was a kind of perfect storm. People were in lockdown, isolated in their homes. This means that digging through your attic or basement and rediscovering your old 1999 Pokemon binder was actually really common. Lots of people were doing this. And in addition to this, everyone had extra money from government checks and also skipping their annual vacations and no longer going out to eat with friends. Everything exploded. Collectibles in general absolutely skyrocketed. Cards were hitting market prices that had never even been dreamed of. Because it all comes down to supply and demand, especially at the time when the supply chain was barely moving, people were literally fighting over booster packs at Walmart. Thankfully, we've somewhat recovered from that embarrassing moment, but things do get a little sketchy from time to time. Be prepared. And we haven't even touched on grading yet. Basically, you can send your cards to a company and they will authenticate it and give it a grade based on its condition. They encase it in a plastic slab and ship it back to you. Sounds silly, and it is, but it's extremely woven into the collectibles culture. Grading increases the value of your card, especially if it gets a 10. The price gap between a 9 and a 10 is huge because most collectors want 10s. Which leads us to investors. You probably already know about this and this. These are vintage Pokemon cards that now cost the same as a house. However, back in 1999, you could pull a first edition Charizard for a $3 pack if you got lucky. If not, you could buy one from a friend for 15 bucks. People want to get in on the great returns. However, the golden age has passed. Great returns can still be had, but it's unlikely to ever hit that level ever again. Remember, Pokemon cards are collectibles, so they actually gain value, and this creates an opportunity for people to make money. Once an expansion set is out of print, it starts to get more expensive. People will buy sealed product and hold on to it until they make a great return. Now, to be clear, I'm not judging anyone here. I'm just letting you know what's up in today's collectibles culture. And if you find this intimidating, you don't have to worry about it. You can just collect cards. But there are opportunities for collectors. For example, if you pull an expensive card but don't really care for it, you can grade it, sell it, make a small profit, allowing you to upgrade to the card you actually desire. But if you want to get a card graded, you're going to have to take care of it. For example, this first edition Charizard you had when you were a kid. If you kept it in mint condition, it could sell for a lot of money. But if it's in poor condition, it's worth a lot less. Now, if you're collecting cards, you're going to need sleeves. These are little pockets made of plastic that you put your card into. We have different sizes. The two most common are standard and slim, sometimes called perfect fit or inner sleeves. Either is fine. It's just a preference thing, but you can also use both and double sleeve your cards. After this, you have a few options. Top loaders are common. These are also called rigid or hard sleeves, and they're basically just a bigger, thicker version of a sleeve, but no longer flexible. There are also card savers, sometimes called semi-rigid sleeves. These are flexible, but they hold your card in a way that will prevent it from shifting. These are especially used during shipping. Now, you can find binders that fit top loaders and even card savers if that's your style. Otherwise, regular binders fit sleeved cards. Now, it's sinful to use any of this without first using a sleeve, by the way. If you buy just one thing, buy sleeves. And everyone has different standards when it comes to sleeving cards. Despite my channel name, I don't actually sleeve every card. I usually sleeve anything hollow and leave non-hollow cards naked. But that's a personal choice, and you can do whatever the heck you want. Now, back in the day, we used 3-ring binders with clear pages, but these are out. The general consensus around these 3-ring binders is that they can harm your cards. I've experienced this myself. In addition to this, top-loaded pages means cards can fall out of the binder if held upside down. Today, we have an improved design. These binders offer much more for card protection. The pockets are side-loaded. Most have zippers, and the soft interior prevents the pages from getting dull. These are just so much more better than the old playground binders that would collect dust and dirt, potentially hurting the value of your cards. Let's move on to how to value a card. Alright, so maybe you dug up your old collection or you have some new cards you want to know the value of. Let's jump onto eBay really quick. eBay isn't the only marketplace to buy and sell Pokemon cards, but it's the biggest. First, I'm going to search for the card name. That is the Pokemon's name followed by its card number at the bottom. In this case, Pikachu, and the number is 60 of 64. Then we're going to enter the condition of the card based on this scale. And I'll drop a link below the like button if you want to look into this condition guide a little more. In this case, I'm going to search LP, which means lightly played, based on some of the whitening on the edges of this card. Here are the search results. So we can see that we searched the right card. There's one more thing to do though. I'm going to only filter to sold listings. This way we can see what people are actually paying for the card, not just their asking price. Now you can buy or sell cards on eBay, just make sure that the seller has good feedback and make sure you look at the images closely and you'll most likely have a good experience. And yes, sometimes you'll find fake cards, but eBay has an authenticity guarantee and I've always gotten my money back. A quick tip here that has saved me money: combine shipping when possible. And if you don't see an option for it in your cart, just message the seller. Sometimes shipping makes the card no longer worth it, but reaching out to the seller works. They almost always are willing to work with you. Another huge marketplace is TCG Player, which is actually owned by eBay. And TCG Player is a great resource too if you want to look at card values over time. You get these neat little graphs and average prices you can watch and pay attention to. If you want to make Pokemon card shopping more of an experience, check out local card shows. There is one near you. Here you can walk around and browse an insane collection of cards. You're probably going to see stuff you didn't know existed or things you otherwise would never see in person. And you'll get the chance to meet new people. My friend Coop does this and uploads his whole day to YouTube, so you can get a candid and honest look into the world of card vendors. He also gives cards to kids for free, which is hard not to love. If you want to buy new cards like fresh booster packs, then the official website, PokemonCenter.com, is going to be the best place to start. However, they are sold out often. Anything after this is going to be at your own risk, but most of the time, GameStop, Target, places like that are going to be safe. Avoid AliExpress, Etsy, and Temu. Guys, if Pokemon cards are extremely cheap, they're fake, okay? Fake cards often come from fake booster packs. A quick way to tell if a booster pack is fake are these triangle cuts on the top and bottom. Now, not all fake packs have the triangle cuts, but it's a good place to start. Fake cards often have typos and poor print quality and just feel bad. Remember how some new cards have texture on them? Fake cards often mess this up, or they just skip the texture altogether. A good first step in identifying a fake card is to just Google search the card, compare the images to your card, and look for obvious mistakes. If you want a deeper explanation of any of these concepts, check out my other videos or leave a comment.